Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to part 2. I told you I'd be back. It's 356 of the KNKL show. I am your host, Kienan Lafferty. And I would like to welcome you to this part where we are going to be continuing with our portrait of our lovely boxer bunny girl, Lapon. Lapon is her name, and we are going to be continuing with that. Now, the only difference that we made here, before we jump into it, as you can see, we just added this background element, which immediately puts some depth to the piece. You can see it's a very trendy thing. Now that I've shown it to you, you're going to see it everywhere. You're going to be like, oh, that's that trendy thing where they just put a shape behind the character and it makes it feel complete. Yes, always put a shape, design, square. In this case, I created this shape where it kind of like points downward, helping to reinforce the perspective. It's reinforcing that the perspective is going downwards. So that's why I picked that. Now, with all that out of the way, let's go ahead and get into our masks, ladies and gentlemen. Let's start masking this out and getting it ready for color. Now, what I don't want you guys to worry about, say if you're at this point with your character, is don't worry so much about picking the exact right color. What I will say, though, is that for your silhouette mask, I would argue that you should make this nice and dark. You should make it nice and dark, or just whatever. You can either make it really light or really dark. Whatever is going to allow the colors of your character to shine through. And in my case, or in this case, I feel like a darker color is going to help with that. So let's go ahead and start laying on the color. See how that immediately starts to add life? We can see clearly what's happening with the colors of the skin. So let's go ahead and begin masking this out. And I want to touch on something that I teased you guys with in the first episode, but I didn't really expand upon. And that was getting inspired. Getting inspired. And what does that have to do with? Because I hear a lot of talk. I hear a lot of talk about people saying, Kienan, I'm not inspired. Kienan, I have art block. Where do you get your ideas from? How do you get this vigor to just keep making these episodes and then going to work and working the day job and then coming back and knocking stuff off your desk, but you don't care, you keep going? How do you do that? And you want to know the true answer to that? Inspiration comes from people. Inspiration comes from your coworkers. It comes from the workplace. It comes from being around people that you like. Whether it is people online, whether you're being inspired by watching tutorials, whether you're inspired by looking at people's artwork on ArtStation or DeviantArt or Instagram. But I feel like the greatest fulfillment of work is feeling like what you do truly matters. Feeling like what you do can actually make a difference. And that's why I want to encourage you guys, as you are learning to become concept artists, or maybe you're already in the field, you're working professionally at a small-time gig, or maybe the big-time thing. Always keep an eye out for if you start to feel burnt out, as I did, working at Riot Games. You want to understand that oftentimes that comes from you feeling like you no longer have control over your work. You no longer have the freedom to explore and learn. And really what it boils down to is feeling like what you do doesn't really matter. And most of the time that has to do with the fact that what you're working on could be so experimental that it never sees the light of day. It could be the fact that you just don't have time to, say you want to learn a new skill. You want to take time to learn a new skill. Like, for instance, I'll give myself as an example. In the game that I'm working on currently, Icons Combat Arena, we have to create a bunch of visual effects for these characters, for spells and hit effects. You know, like in Street Fighter, when you punch the other character, like those hit lines come out. We needed those in the game, big time. And we were looking for other artists that could do that. And I sort of stepped up and said, hey, I know some general ideas of animation. Maybe I could learn about that. Maybe I could learn a little bit more about doing that stuff. And I showed you guys some of the visual effects stuff that I did for Riot. So that's why I felt sort of confident about that. I was like, okay, I kind of did some stuff like this for Riot. I want to expand upon this and maybe do the full-on asset that will go into the game. Okay? So, and that ended up working. I ended up creating a lot of the visual effects that are in Icons. And it made me feel really good. It made me feel like, hey, what I do actually can make a big difference. And that, of course, made me feel awesome. The main thing that I want you guys to watch out for. Okay, so quick tangent. I have no idea what color I want her main color to be. I thought about red because that's a very like boxer type thing. But right now I'm thinking of like other characters that we have in the game. We have red. We have a big red jacket. That's Raymer. We have purple. That's a Shawnee. We have blue. That's Kid. So what are we missing? Do we have orange? I wonder if orange would look cool. Like a reddish orange. Oh, that actually looks really cool. But I kind of like the blue too. I like this muted blue. Maybe we could have muted blue with a contrasting orange. Maybe that's what I want. Maybe that's what I want. But again, we can play around with all that stuff later because the way that I'm teaching you guys to do this is, let's see, what should we name this? Let's name this accent. Accent color. The way that I'm teaching you to do this, you're setting your file up in such a way that you will be able to, I'm going to make this a little bit different from the skin color because it's kind of blending. You're setting this up in a way that way you can go in, and I'm sure you know where I'm going with this. You can use your sliders, just as I was doing there. You can use your sliders to try to come up with interesting color palettes. Now, the major guiding point that I want you guys to keep in mind is this over here. This right here is our value treatment. This is so we know that, okay, so we know the general idea is that we want the skin to be a brighter color than the suit in general. But even that we can play around with at the end here. So maybe that entire point is moot. Let's go ahead and get back to this. So let's talk about accents. Where do we want our accent colors to be? Okay, maybe the accents will be the mecha parts. These big chunky mecha parts that kind of stick off. In fact, I'm going to make this a subset of blue. Just so that way it looks nice. Let's go ahead and do that. Shift F5. There we go. There we go. Kind of want it like that. Oh yeah, that looks nice. That looks really nice. Okay, but anyway, going back to what I was saying, is that if you're ever feeling uninspired, whether you are the noob getting started, you're trying to find inspiration to create characters, to perfect your skills so that way people will notice you in the industry, or whether you are whether you're actually working the job, whether you have the job at the big company. The point where I found that you lose inspiration and creativity is when you no longer feel like what you do matters. So there's a couple ways that you can do that. There's a couple ways that you can get around that. A is leave that company and find one that is small enough, right? Of course, that comes with the trade-off of less stability. You'll have less stability, but all of a sudden, everything you do matters. Everybody's watching you to make sure, like, everybody's watching you, waiting to see what you're going to do next. And that can be a really empowering, but it can also be very scary. It can be very daunting to kind of go through with that or deal with that. So you got to understand that it comes with a trade-off. But I found that the most rewarding places to be when you're doing artwork is places where you're encouraged to learn, places where you're encouraged to, like, you don't have to be perfect, but also at the same time, just everybody knows it. It's like everybody's in this together. This is particularly at small companies. It's like you're all in it together, and everybody needs to step it up. Everybody needs to step it up and do their freaking best, right? Otherwise, it's not going to work. See, at the big companies, you can kind of skate on by. You can kind of go to the meetings and not really do anything. You can get away with stuff like that. But in the small companies, you don't get to do that. And so that's why I would encourage you guys. Like, it's kind of it's a win-win. Because when you join the small companies, you get to start gaining that experience. You start gaining that so amazing experience of actually working on something in the field, which can be very important. Let's see, do I want that? Do I want the accent to be there? There. Yeah, I actually like that. I like the accent just on the inside. Keeping it simple. Keeping it simple. Like it. Like it. Okay, chunky bits. That's our rule. Chunky bits get the lighter material, the accent color. Like that. Like that. I don't really know where I'm going with this. Where am I trying to go with this? Maybe I made the wrong choice trying to give a a motivational talk while simultaneously trying to color this character. But yeah, inspiration is going to come from people, guys. From people that are better than you, from people that are worse than you. I know that sounds funny, but you can be inspired by people that are worse than you, particularly people that are more successful than you, but actually have less skill than you. In fact, half the time I want to go out and do something is because I watch somebody doing it and I'm like, man, they're successful doing that thing? They're successful talking to this big audience, giving this motivational talk? Man, they're so boring. Man, they make all kinds of there's so many speech impediments that they have, yet the crowd still sits there and watches it. Like, how do they deal with that? And at that point I realized, well, maybe I could do that too, because I kind of suck at talking, but I could learn, and I think I could get better than that eventually. But yeah, keep an eye out for that stuff. I don't like that there. Accent should go maybe right there. Yeah, screw it. That's good. Okay, let's go to accent 2. Accent 2. Round 2. Let's go ahead and make this a darker, more purpley color. And I want this to be on areas like this. Here, here. Have it be here, and here. Accent dos. Think of it as we're setting up our shaders, we're setting up our masks for our Destiny shader to come in later. For those of you who play Destiny, it just changes the colors on preset areas of your character. So that's basically what we're doing here. We're outlining what presets will change when we start messing around with the sliders. And we're going to get some cool stuff. Let's see, do I want one to be here? Yes, because why not? Maybe one here as well. Cool. Let's see here. I want these to be part of that. I'm just trying to break it up. That's all I'm doing right now, guys. I'm just breaking things up. Have these be darker parts. Have this be a darker part. Oh, that's skin that I totally missed. I want these gloves to be that darker color. Looks good. Looks good. Let's go ahead and eye drop this. Let's go back to the skin. So yes, in short, you guys are probably wondering. So I should go for the small company. Yeah, no longer right. I should go work for Wave Dash Games. That's exactly what I'm getting at. Yes, you should come work with me at Wave Dash Games, because we need more talented, awesome people. And really, I want you guys more than anything, as you're learning to become concept artists, to enjoy what you do. I really want you to enjoy what you do and understand that when you feel burnt out, because it's so easy to go there. It's so easy to get to the burnout stage. For those of you who don't know what burnout is, I'm thankful. Bless your heart that you don't know what that word means. But it basically means where you get fed up with your job and you want to leave. You get fed up with your job, you're so sick of what you're doing, even though it's something that you've worked your entire life to get. I always love doing this, where you set in the color of the eyes and then you mess around with it like this. And be like, what color really brings out the feeling of the character? Isn't it interesting how like a blue eye gives the character a different personality than a red eye? I like that a lot. I think that I like... Okay, I'm biased because that's kind of like Emma's eyes. She has like maroon, kind of like reddish eyes. That looks really nice. I'm liking that. And let's see. So that's looking pretty good. I think that should set us up pretty well to start messing around with some colors. I want to color that in just to differentiate that. Oh, as well as these. Let's color these. These should be darker as well. And maybe there's some sort of designs in here too, but we don't need to get too far into that. Just messing around with it a little bit. Okay, cool. So now I would argue that we are ready for color mixing. Coming up with ideas on this. Coming up with cool ideas. I do want this to be darker. I think this just needs one more. That needed one more little push. One more little push. Okay. Cool, I think we're good. And, oh yeah, the Band-Aid. Band-Aid, that's accent 1. Let's go ahead and color that in. Let's put this above the skin. There we go. Now, finally, we can move into the fun stuff. So now that you've gotten your character to right about here, now you can play around with color schemes and trust that everything is already set up, so that way it's easy to just kind of mess around with it. So let's go ahead and get rid of all these other things. Let's get rid of all these other things. And let us expand the canvas. Let us expand our horizon. Expand to new horizons. Let's do some color comps, people. We're talking good old 1, 2. Oh, talking good old 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. There we go. Cool. And if you're curious how I did that, I just held Alt. Just selected everything, held Alt, and dragging it automatically makes a duplication of it. Okay. So let's go ahead and start with this one. Yay! Yay! So let's go ahead and say, okay, the original idea for this character was red. So let's go ahead and mess around with some reds. Let's go ahead and make it like this. Deep red. Or let's have a bright red. Bright red on this one. So let's go ahead and kick up the lightness. I actually kind of like that pink too. The pink is cute. Yeah, like that. Let's go to accent 2. These should be, okay, that should be that right there. And look at that. Isn't that awesome? Isn't that sweet? You can just begin playing around with the colors of your character. Awesome. And then the accent light. This one can be, let's see, this should be very light. Ooh, that looks cool. I like the mixture. I like the mixture of the cooler colors. The green looks really nice too. Sometimes you might get to like a point where it's like too saturated. Like if you get to this is ugly, right? That's an ugly combination, but it doesn't mean that it can't work. Oftentimes, all you have to do is, let's go ahead and zoom in there and change that. Oh, whoops. What have I done? There we go. Okay, so as I was saying, so you might pick a green, but it looks like this, right? It's kind of ugly. You're like, eh. It actually looks like Alex Strauza. Why does it look like Alex Strauza? That might be Alex Strauza's colors. But oftentimes, the simple answer lies in, oh yeah, it was this green. So the answer oftentimes lies in lightening it up and desaturating it. Sometimes once you do that, now you can see that it feels much nicer now. It feels much nicer. And that's because you're controlling your colors. You're controlling the opposite color that you're introducing into the mix. Okay? So there's one. I kind of dig that one. Kind of dig that. Oh, let's mess around a little bit with the skin. Let's see, what if we push the skin a little bit more yellow? It's pretty cool. Yeah, not bad. Not bad. I like it. I like it very much. Oh, I like that one too. Okay, cool. So there's one. Let's go ahead and move on to the next one. Okay, let's try something different. Let's try something totally different. Teal. Teal, I imagine, would look very cool. We don't have a lot of characters with teal yet. Yeah, like that. Like that. Ooh, I like that a lot. So yeah, I'm just messing around with the hue, saturation, and lightness. With these tools, you can create any color. Any color known to man. Let's go to the accent. Oh, I like that one too. Did I set this to multiply? I feel like these lines are like multiplying with what's behind it. Oh, I think it's because of the color. It's the color that I chose for it. The color that I chose for the lines. Nice. That's great. Let's see. What do I want for this one? Oh, the green looks good on this one too. Cooler colors. I like that. Love it. Love it. And then for this last one, I know we already talked about this one, but let's go ahead and make another color palette. This is also really handy when you're creating fighter characters because you need to create a bunch of different color palettes for your game. So that way, you know, like when you select your character in Smash Brothers, you can select a special color palette for them. So this is also really helpful, even if you don't end up using all of these. I actually want to make a really bright one. I want to make a really bright one because I want to do a version where her skin is dark. And it will look much nicer if we have light colors to contrast against. Yeah, like that. Like that. Let's go ahead and do this accent color. Let's lighten that up as well. Let's push this towards... Well, that color feels nice here. That one feels quite nice. Cool. Oh yeah, and I like these accents now becoming the darker ones. That could be really cool. I love that you guys get to watch me do this. It's actually really fun. Yeah. I like that. I like that a lot. Okay, cool. Now that should set us up so that we can make the skin nice and dark. There we go. Yeah, that looks really cute. I actually really like that one. that might be the default. I don't know. I really like that one. That one's super cute. Okay, cool. So that should wrap up colors. That's a cool way to start experimenting with colors. Just as a quick recap, what we did is we set up our lines. I'll go ahead and deconstruct this one on the side here, or rather in the middle. So what we did was we created some line art that we really liked. We created a background or a silhouette of the character. We just silhouetted the character. And notice how that is the color that represents most of, or that's the color we're going to see the most of on the character. So then we can add in things like, hey, here's the accent colors. Hey, here's the skin color. And all of these materials and parts of the character are separated out. So that way then we can go in with our hue color. Actually, I want to change the eyes on this one too, because we don't have any with different eyes. There you go. We got some blue eyes on that one. So then you can hit Control U, go in there, start playing around with your sliders, your hues, lightness, and saturation, and you can find something that you like. I'm actually going to change the skin on this one too. I want this one to be like really bright. Really bright and kind of yellowy, maybe. really, really bright. Cool. So I want it brighter. I want it like pale. Yeah, pale. And we can make the eyes even brighter too. Yeah, there we go. That gives us a nice broad range to look at. Loving that. So that's how I like to set up my colors on my characters. That's how I like to play around with them. Hope this has been useful and interesting to you guys. I don't have Lovely Lane set up on this new rig yet, so no Lovely Lane today. But thank you guys so much for joining me on YouTube as usual. Thumbs up if you like it, thumbs down if you don't. My name is Kienan Lafferty. I'll see you guys in a couple of weeks. I'm going to be gone this week at TwitchCon. Please come see me and the team. I will be doing sketches in my sketchbook, like these ones here, like this one here. If you can see it, you can't see it. Okay, well, I guess it's just going to be a mystery until you can actually come in and look at it. Ah, look at it! Look at, oh, there you go, you can kind of see it. Okay, well, it's probably good that it's a little bit more secret because I want you guys to see them when you come out and see me. So, you guys have a great rest of your week. I'll see you guys soon. I'll keep you guys updated. I'll probably have an episode out to you guys by mid... I don't want to make any promises, but it's probably going to be next weekend. Next weekend. So that would make it the... what would that be? Let's see here. So next week, probably the week of the 23rd to the 28th. I'll be at my friend Jake's house, but I can at least do another simple episode. At least an update. So I'll see you guys then, and until that time comes, you guys stay awesome. See ya.